Taylor.
And I'm Amber.
And this is
Waking Up the Witch. We're your neighborhood witches. Each week, we talk about all things witchy and connect with other humans in a storytelling format about navigating life on this floating rock.
We're two curious ladies trying to understand the human experience. But while we do that, we think it's important to honor the people that lived here before us and honor the cultures and traditions that we're being inspired by.
This podcast is about waking up the witch, which means we are learning and growing every day. That being said, we are always open to feedback on how we can do better.
The views and opinions of our guests don't necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Waking Up the Witch. Now, let's go, ghouls. Hey, Amber.
Hi, Taylor.
What's up?
Hey.
How are you?
I'm a little sleepy today, but like calm and mellow, and oh my gosh, I feel like I have so much to tell, but I want to make this intro short, so maybe we'll talk more about it later. But I had a really fun weekend that felt like so like soul healing. I don't know.
Talk about it a little bit.
We had so every third Friday of the month, downtown Medford has art walks and businesses stay open and there's buskers on the street, and it's just kind of like a way to celebrate the downtown community. And this third Friday, I have lots and lots of different people, like local people on consignment at my shop, and there's this one woman, Kaylee. She lives in Portland and makes some of the most stunning jewelry ever, and she was like, hey, what if I come down? I could do a pop-up, and I had a really fun free event on Saturday that she wanted to come to, and I was like, yeah, that would be great. And she's so fucking hilarious. She's just so goofy and silly. And we hung out almost all Friday. She got in at 2. And then we were here till almost 10, a bunch of us. And then Saturday we had Taurus Ball, which is a part of these free quarterly gatherings that I do here, which just get dressed up, tune into your higher self, come hang out, and we just chill. We eat food, have snacks, dance, listen to music. And it's always a little bit of a different vibe. And she was here for that. And we all just drank wine and sang karaoke on this shitty early 2000s karaoke machine that was hiding out here. Yeah, I'm oh, why have we never broken that out? It was part of my husband's old business. Yeah, one of his coworkers left it here, and I was I think there might actually be a karaoke machine, and we just laughed so hard. She sang Mr. Roboto, and it was she was just so theatrical about it, and yeah, she's hilarious. We all just laughed nonstop. Where I was I feel I just was at summer camp all weekend. Cute. And just had the best time, and our souls just being surrounded by amazing women, and that was really cool. But on top of that, in the sandwich of all of that, there was this really cool event held here Saturday afternoon by this woman who's an acupuncturist and Chinese medicine doctor. She's known as Dr. Alexis. We'll totally interview her, and we'll talk more about this. But she's also a trans channeler and channels.
What does that mean?
It's if you've ever seen Abraham Hicks or Bashar, it's you get into this deeply meditative state and open your channel, you're channeling. You can channel a guide or an interdimensional being, or universal consciousness, really anything. It's not recommended to do it if you're inexperienced with channeling, because you want to have a lot of good healthy boundaries around this. But basically your vessel, your body, your channel becomes the voice for this energy to share wisdom and messages. And so she's been doing this for several years now, and it'll be really cool to hear her story of how that all came together. But she's done lots of different in-person events. She does online events, and she held an in-person event here at Moonbees Saturday afternoon. And Oh my God. It was so fucking amazing. And Mark, my husband, was here, which I was like really excited. Like he found Bashar on his own. He thinks it's really fascinating and stuff. So I didn't have to like really talk him into it, but I was like, I know someone who does that. And he was like, cool. Yeah, I definitely want to go to that.
Cool.
And so he was very open-minded. We all received personal messages as well as like just collective messages. She talked a lot about timelines and like soul purpose and stuff. That was kind of like the collective energy, which was really interesting. And yeah, then we get into our personal messages, and it was just so wild, like because there were I didn't know everyone really well in the room, but I knew a handful. And like hearing their messages come through, I was like, whoa, that's like so spot on, because I know them so well of what's going on in their world and their life. And then of course, like getting to me and my husband, like the messages were so potent and powerful and like exactly what we needed to know, because yeah, life's just been a journey. And yeah, we talked a lot about spirit babies and like, and I've met Dr. Alexis, but I've never really talked to her about our journey or anything. And she was telling me, she's like, literally the first time I ever met you, I saw like that you had a daughter and a son at like ages 6 and 8. Like she's like, I could have sworn, like it was like I saw that timeline. I didn't realize that you didn't have those kids.
I wonder
And
what the significance of those
of the numbers.
yeah.
Well, that kind of came up, and yeah, it's like it's really a whole long story, but yeah, it just was really interesting and like really validating and like a great reminder that like we're on the path and it is happening. She like tuned in to the energy because she said that in the past, like a lot of what she does in acupuncture is around fertility and women's health as well. And so she will get like images of like that person's journey and how babies come into the world through them, like whether it's through them or adoption or fostering or however that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I can sense that you're open to how that happens for you. She's like, but I see you giving birth. Like I see you being pregnant, that this is something you're going to do through yourself, which was like, of course, that's what I want. I want that experience and to like, yeah, just be empowered. But I also am totally open to adoption or fostering and stuff. And so
I think it's going to come out of your vagina and I want to watch.
you're gonna. Hello.
And I can do the Reiki
yes,
on you and like
so
all of the things that you did for me
magical.
during my birth and
Yeah,
stuff like
it
that.
was really cool. And like everything too, that like it was interesting because she was Simon was reading for me, and then like it usually it would become like complete reading with that person before going to the next. But obviously Mark and I are very connected, that there was a lot that Simon like had to go over to Mark before completing with me. But
and
like
Simon is her
Simon's the energy
channel,
that she's channeling, the entity. And like the stuff that was coming up from Mark was just like, oh, I'm so fucking grateful, because it's literally stuff that I know, and it's so hard like to receive that stuff
Yeah.
from your partner. Like you don't
Yeah.
receive it in the way sometimes that they are intending, because like we're just stubborn, and Mark and I are very stubborn. But I think like that's a very normal thing. Like receiving this knowledge or insight from other people is
He's
much
an
easier
Aries too.
to receive. Totally. And we're both like, I'm fucking stubborn as shit. Like he's fucking stubborn.
I would never use that word to describe you, but maybe in your marriage.
Oh yeah, I'm very stubborn. Very, very stubborn. And yeah, so it can be like kind of hard sometimes to have those conversations or to like get through in the way that you would hope that it would be received.
That's amazing.
And it was like all these things, and I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Like this is exactly what I've been trying to express. And it was like that his energy is everywhere, and like Simon described it almost like multiple personalities, not like the actual diagnosis of multiple personalities, but that
of Mark.
Yeah, that his energy is just so like in different areas, and that there's a lot of past life stuff that it's like past lives are trying to experience through Mark. Like, whoa. So yeah, it was like really interesting. I don't even
she
remember
do,
everything.
Like one-on-one online
I know she does like an online like twice a month. There's like I forget what she calls it, but there's something that she does that you like kind of commit to. That's like you pay the certain amount every month, and then you get 2 calls, like group calls.
Oh, cool.
A month
Well, I'll just
for
come
that
back
price.
here, I guess.
But yeah, we're totally gonna have her here again for another in person. That's like, yeah, a really great way to access that. I'm sure she does one-on-one stuff with Simon, but I'm not positive. Cool. We'll get into that. We'll totally get her scheduled. But it was just a really cool experience that felt very validating, and there was like a lot of stuff about business, and it just like kind of made me feel that sense of security that I really needed, of like, no, this is going to be very successful. It's like, I know that it will be, but it's like sometimes hard to remember that and hold on to that when you're
business
like growing.
Is in its infancy.
It really is.
And you're doing so much for a new business. It's really, a testament to how much people need what you have to offer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but that's me. That's my freshness. What about you? How are you?
I spent the weekend on the toilet.
Yeah, you did not have a good weekend.
I have no idea what happened to me, but I planned out like all my life goals while I was laying in bed for days.
I love that. Sometimes we need that forced just downtime where you can just focus on those things.
Yeah, and I'm obviously like inspired to like create, like I need to have more things that I want to do right now. But
I feel all the time.
It's like to create more stuff, and I mean, one of the little things was just like I want to work on like the way I'm showing up in the world and like my fashion, but I don't want to buy things that don't already exist. So I'm just like trying to figure, I like found key items that I'm going to like manifest to thrift.
I love that.
And
you can do that.
I think I can crochet this top that I want. And I try not to crochet very often because I try to like save my hands, but like I think one little knit vest thing will be fine.
Oh, that would feel so good too, though.
Yeah.
Cute.
And I'm really excited about Moonlight and Magic. It will probably have already happened by the time this comes out. But
that's true.
Yeah, I can't wait for our event. I'm getting a little nervous since we've never thrown an event before.
I know. But I'm like, where's everyone going to fit? I think
it'll be fine.
It's going to be so good. But yeah.
It'll be fine.
We have a wait list. Like,
it's just gotten
for
bigger.
The people who want to participate. And that's so exciting. It's like, whoa, what are we creating right now?
Yeah, I didn't know if we'd have enough people, and now people are just like strangers are like, hey, can I be a part of your event? And I'm just hoping like people show up to it. And even if they don't, we'll like learn so much.
Gosh,
so I'm excited about like the birth and creation of this event and what else it will be.
Yeah, totally. Me too.
I have been like creating so much content at work behind the chair and like focusing on that side of my business. And one of my clients, I'm going to meet with her and she's going to help me and the podcast just get like our names out there more and like more, just push the podcast out, like, because we are doing so many awesome things and I just feel like more people need to know about it.
Totally.
There's just so much goodness coming into my life right now. Is it goodness? Is that like proper grammar? I don't know. So much
I think so.
Goodness coming in, and abundance, and all of these things that I've worked really hard for a really long time are just like showing up for me, and I'm trying to just live in it and stay grateful for it. And I love my new little house, and I love my little salon, and I love my coworkers. I'm excited for the sunshine. My child's a genius, and life is good. I don't really have anything else to put out there.
I love that.
And my goal is like besides like everything that I'm doing, I like my intention moving forward. I need to find more time to start being more active. Because it's been really hard with a baby to like anytime that I'm not working to just not be paying full attention to her. But now that we're close to neighbors, I feel like we can
just go on some nice little walks even.
Yeah, I mean, we walk and stuff.
Yeah.
I just want to lift weights and like strength because I think for what I do, it's just so important to maintain the structure of your body to keep like being able to do this stuff behind the chair.
Standing up all day is not easy.
Yeah, and I mean, some of my coworkers, like one girl last week had to take off for like a week because she was experiencing like extreme pain, and I think for me, curly hair has like saved my life because it's so much easier on your body, which is crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I'm not doing like blowouts.
Oh yeah.
So, I don't know. That's all I have to report on. I'm just happy.
I'm so happy.
I wish I didn't have to go to work after this and we could like drink wine in the sunshine, but we'll do that soon. Sunday, I guess.
Soon.
I don't really get to see you that much besides this, so
I know. It'll happen more now that the sun shines out. I'm trying to make more time in my schedule for play because I'm really good at overbooking myself and exhausting myself and
it's hard
burning
when your
myself
job
out.
is so fun to
I know,
like
it's all
not
I
do it, but
love getting to do it, and then I'm like
you never get
summer,
to do anything with me.
I don't get to do anything extra really. So yeah, I'm this summer when I don't have a Saturday night event, which in most cases is every other week. Sometimes maybe I'll have a third event, but I'm gonna have my boutique close at 4 so that I can have like.
We should look up the jet boats.
Oh yeah,
concerts.
Oh my
on the
god,
rocks.
we missed that last year because I got sick.
All right.
Hell yeah. Well, tell me about today's guest.
Oh my god. Wow. What an honor. I think this podcast has just like made it so that we can talk to so many people that we've looked up to for a long time and inspire us. Like some of the guests that we've had are insane.
Yeah.
And it's like, in what other reality would we even get to like connect with these people? And obviously today's guest is someone that really, really inspires me and is a really big part of a lot of hairstylists and other people's lives. And she's just a really good person, and I think that
sweet,
we have so much to learn from her. And her takes on motherhood and the things she went through in early motherhood made me really emotional, just being, I mean, still kind of postpartum for me. And so I just love connecting with moms and like badass moms.
Yeah.
Like ones that
she is that
like have goals and want to still like create
not just
things
be a mom.
And that's fine too. That's
like
amazing, but that's not the journey I'm on. So like connecting with people that are doing the same type of thing is, you know, amazing.
Yeah.
So
that like it's about
being just a mom is also badass.
Totally.
So there's nothing wrong with that. Moms are not just moms. They're the best.
They are the best.
All right. Well, we should not keep talking because the interview is kind of long and we want you to listen to it.
Enjoy. So if it feels good and safe right now, go ahead and close your eyes and let's take 3 deep grounding breaths together. Breathe in through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Another deep belly breath in and release. And this last one, let it be the biggest breath you've had all day. Breathe in and release. Just taking a moment here to think about something that you are deeply grateful for today in this moment. allowing this gratitude to help seal in this beautiful, loving, creative container for us today. Asking for assistance and love, protection and guidance from our spiritual guides and ancestors, helping to hold a loving container for vulnerability and authentic expression.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Hello,
Amazing. Thank you.
hello.
I am so excited about today's guest. Could you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Joanne Starkman, and I am co-founder and chief visionary officer of Innersense Organic Beauty. I'm a hairstylist. I'm an avid meditator. I just recently launched my own podcast called Trust Your Innersense. And I'm just thrilled to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Such an honor. Yes, thank you so much for being here.
I'm obviously very inspired by you and really looking forward to getting to know you more deeply and how you kind of became the beautiful, powerful woman you are today. So if you want to take us back as far as you remember, I would love to kind of start there.
Just in connecting with you guys and the way that you talk about how you want the podcast to go, and you're just like, start where you want, like when you're an infant. It was so sweet, because I just think about like memories, and there was I don't know when, but it was just like, okay, think about like your first memory or something like that. And I can remember standing in my crib with my little onesie pajamas on, and I think they were like yellow and this, with the
Cute.
footies in them, and standing at the crib and just looking out. I was the youngest. I am the youngest of 5 siblings. And I just think about probably what I was thinking or waiting was for somebody to come and get me out of the crib, because I wanted to join the rest of the family. So
What about
I'm
me?
definitely like a people person and somebody that loves connection. And then from that point, thinking about the title of your podcast and Awakening the Witch Within. I think I'm definitely consider myself a nature girl. And so probably another very, very strong memory for me growing up as a child was being alone out in the yard under these amazing evergreen like pine trees that we had up in this kind of small section of the yard, which I would say hill, but probably it wasn't much of a hill. I was a child. So it was like probably just like a mound or something like that. But these trees, and I would go underneath the trees and sit there and kind of play in the dirt and have my like maybe one little pot or pan or something like that, and be picking all these little findings, whether they'd be pine needles or pine cones, or I'd be kind of like sitting there organizing my stuff. But I think my stuff was like rocks and sticks and pine cones and things like that. So I have very, very fond memories of camping often with my family. Both my parents were school teachers, so I was very, blessed to have them really.
Where did you grow up?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Pittsburgh, California, which is like the San Francisco Bay Area, but east, kind of on the Delta. So it was very, a very small town and very multicultural. There were a lot of different ethnic groups that, I don't know, migrated to that area. And my father is originally born in Richmond, but raised in Oakland, California. And my mom was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, but they actually met in Europe, believe it or not. So my dad was a principal of a Air Force base he actually was going to become a priest, believe it or not. He came from a
Wow.
big family. He has a brother that was a priest, and he was in the seminary and kind of got to that place of like whether he wanted to decide whether he would become a priest or take the oath or the vows or whatever you call them,
Mhm.
or like move on to something different. And he decided not
Wow.
to. And so at that point, he was very young and probably in his early, well, I'm not even going to guess. I don't know. But he ended up becoming, traveled to Europe and was a principal on an Air Force base. And so they were going to hire a kindergarten teacher. And my dad tells this story. It's just so sweet and endearing. He talks about how they needed to hire an elementary or a kindergarten teacher. And so there was this teacher that was going to be coming in that they hired from Detroit, Michigan. And so he says that he, as the principal, went to go pick up this new teacher at the train station. And it was my mom that came off the train. And he said he dropped down on one knee and said, "Will you marry me?" I mean, it was a total,
No.
it was a total joke, but it was just so sweet how like
That's so
romantic my dad
sweet.
was
Oh.
in that regard. So obviously it was love at first sight, and they fell in love and got married, and
You
then
know
they ended
where
up.
in Europe?
Yeah, it was. I think it was called Metz, France, and so it was
Okay.
a U.S. Air Force base
Okay.
in France. Yeah,
Wow. So
and it was.
romantic.
Yeah, very, very romantic, right? And so they ultimately ended up getting married over there not long after. I don't think so. I think they were both in the right time at the right place or whatever. Or maybe, all of us little beings wanted to come in. So they were like, "You guys are getting together. We're coming down. We're getting this
Mhm.
party started."
Aw.
Anyway, they ended up coming back to California. And so then that's when they ended up starting kind of their family and buying a house in Pittsburgh.
Mhm.
And so then my dad was a elementary school principal there, and my mom stayed home raising all of us for a period of time until maybe I was 5 or 6, and then she ended up going back to teaching and wasn't a kindergarten teacher.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
yeah, so yeah, that was my house in Pittsburgh that I remember, sitting under the pine trees. And my dad was a gardener, so that was super, super cool.
Oh.
So he always had a garden, and I have other fond memories of, being in the garden with him, just digging in the dirt and him picking carrots specifically. And little did I know as an adult, carrots are not that easy to grow.
Yeah.
And so we always had carrots in the yard. And I can remember him pulling a carrot, me standing there, him pulling a carrot out and like just tapping the dirt off on his, dirty jeans, and me just
Yep.
eating that
Yeah.
crunchy carrot down.
Good for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
What was
So,
it like growing up the youngest of 5?
oh, that's a great question. I don't think I really knew any different, obviously, but my siblings were a bit older than I was. So they had 4 children right away. And then I was 7 years later.
Oh,
So
wow.
you could call that like an accident or a surprise, or as my mom would say, a gift. But, so I think in the beginning I grew up in this big, big family. And then ultimately, probably as I was like I'm going to say 4th or 5th grade, I was an only child. So that was
Yeah.
an interesting
Yeah.
dynamic of kind of, when you talk about like the birthing order of
Yeah.
people, I feel like I more so resonate with the only child or like the firstborn syndrome or something like that. Although, maybe my siblings would disagree with
I
that
think
as
a lot of like psychology says when there's like, I think it's a 6 or 7 year age gap, it's technically like being raised as an only child again.
mhm,
There's like a
mhm.
lot of science behind like all of that.
Yeah, I think in my mind I was raised in a big family, and I
Mhm.
probably have some attributes about that, but I think in reality, like if I were to really dig deep, I think, definitely I have a lot of only child attributes or firstborn or whatever you would call that. So yeah, I could totally see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool because you still get the big family, but then you got a lot of the like soul love and attention and affection to yourself without having to fight for it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, or I kind of, the way that sometimes I reflect on it is I feel like I was a little bit raised by wolves, because I think my parents were kind of done raising kids by the
Like, you
time,
got
and
this.
you got this. So I think I probably spent a lot of time alone, for sure. I remember definitely my parents were kind of in their socializing phase by the time I was probably in, elementary school. And I remember spending a lot of time at other friends' house, like having sleepovers over there. Or if I was home, I would bring my big box of Barbies to one of their dinner parties where all of their friends, they were all empty nesters. And I would be put in the other room with my box of Barbies to play on my own, and then end up falling asleep on the couch because it was, 10 or 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and then going home. So, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I think there's no right or wrong for any of it. It is just interesting to kind of reflect back on that, different aspects of one's child rearing.
Do you feel like you had like a much more active imagination because of that? Like, I could see how you being left to your own devices, and like you really have to create your own stories and reality, like being out in the woods. What are you doing with all of those things you're collecting, or playing with the Barbies? Like, what story are you plotting and telling, and to me, like, imagination is just a deeper connection to your own intuition as well, and like psychic gifts, because that's really all we're doing is tapping into that
Absolutely.
child intuition energy.
That's a great perspective. I hadn't really thought of it in those terms, but I definitely feel, that I'm for sure a creative person. And I definitely love to imagine for sure, and create. So maybe that is part of, where that came from. Definitely.
Building a dream.
Exactly. Yes.
So what were you like in like middle school and high school?
Yeah, I think one of the things that came up for me for sure is the idea that I loved animals. So we had a dog, and we had cats and kittens. And at one point, I tried to get involved like in 4-H in our area. I think that there was, for me, a lot of starts and stops in different. I probably drove my mom crazy as far as like all the different interests that maybe I started to show, but probably never really stuck with it and got that involved. But I had this rabbit her name was Duchess, and she was this white rabbit. And I can remember, just really wanting to groom her.
Oh, the beginning of
So
a
I almost feel like
hairstylist.
that's kind of part of like the bubbling up of the hairstylist that I maybe didn't even recognize. It's just funny. Really, honestly, that just visceral feeling of, grooming her and petting her and, caring for her and everything like that. I think definitely looking back, that was, a hairstylist in the making. The other memory that I have that I've talked about at different times was like my connection to my mom and hair and grooming. And when I was little, getting out of the bathtub and being wrapped in a towel, and my dad had built a fire, and then me sitting in front of the fireplace and my mom combing out my hair, and just the connection that fostered. Like that it was very, very subconscious, but and then also too, like watching her do her own hair, like being up in rollers and then doing the like little bubble dryer, like that soft, I don't know if you've ever seen those. You guys are probably far too young, but it was like this soft bubble blow dryer that would, this hose would go down into this small little, mechanical thing that plugged into the wall, and it would turn on, and then it would blow the air. And so she would sit there with her rollers, on the couch or whatever. And I would sit
Love
by the
it.
fire, like with my hair drying. And we kind of had like
Amazing.
these like bonding moments. And then the other thing too, thinking about it, I loved having my hair braided. Like I
Yeah.
can remember just like asking my mom to braid my hair, like before I'd go to school. Like I was definitely the one. And then subsequently, like I was the one that always would, grab my friends and bring them over to the schoolyard bench and be like brushing or braiding or, doing their hair. And then it was, you know, getting older and, going to dances and proms and then,
Yep.
having people over and, putting makeup on. But then ultimately I felt like I was the one that was always like grabbing the curling iron or doing, brushing and combing. And I don't know, those just
Same.
were really, yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, well, everybody looks so good, but like, what about my hair?
I know. Right?
Like, I remember my uncle's ex-wife had a like teeny tiny salon in a teeny tiny town, and I just always wanted to go hang out there. And I remember it was prom time, and I was in like 8th grade, and she let me like curl all these girls' hair, which is totally illegal. Curl all these girls' hair before
That's
she
so
put
much
them into
fun.
updos, and I was just like, even being 12, I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, I know it.
You were the assistant.
Oh yeah, she probably made a lot more money then.
Oh,
So,
that's amazing.
once you graduated high school, did you
Mhm.
immediately know that you wanted to be a hairstylist?
No, not at all. I don't think any of that was on my mind. I think, you know, I probably got a subliminal message from my parents that I needed to go to college. And so that's kind of what all the people that I was hanging out with, that was what everybody was doing. So I graduated high school and went to Sacramento State. And the first year I took just general ed type classes. I think for sure, like the psychology classes were most interesting to me, but not even really realizing like what psychology was. I don't think that that was really on my radar. And, having parents that were school teachers, that education was just kind of in my sphere of influence. And so I thought that I wanted to become a teacher, not even thinking about hairstyling, because I think maybe subconsciously there was this idea that like hairdressing wasn't like a proper career, but I don't think I
I
really
was
had that
told that.
consciously. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody said that to me. I mean, really honestly, I don't think my parents said much to me. I don't really remember
Yeah.
them saying much at all of any of that. So I think it was
Yeah.
kind of like a lot self-directed, or just like I said, what I picked up subconsciously from my
Yeah.
surroundings. And so after my first year at Sacramento State, I ended up a group of friends of mine, because my best friend, one was stayed in the area and went to a junior college, or no, I'm sorry, she went to like a fashion school, or to become a designer, a clothing designer. And then my other friend, she was at San Diego State, and so the three of us decided that we were going to live in Tahoe for the summer and just get jobs to, have a fun summer in Tahoe, because we
Fun.
always loved going to Lake Tahoe. And so we ended up getting like a small dive house that we lived in, and we all got jobs like as bus uh, staff or whatever at one of the casinos. And there was actually four of us. So my one friend from San Diego, she brought another friend with her. So we had a blast. We just
That's so
What a
had the
fun
best
idea.
summer ever. Yeah, it was so much fun. We were, all underage, but ended up with fake IDs somehow.
course.
And so we were able to go to the club at night. And, um, well, we would, yeah, go to the club at night and then like stay up all night, watch the sunrise, and then end up, sleeping
Oh,
most
yeah.
of the morning or going to the beach or whatever. And then we had to be back at work. Like we worked the swing shift. So I think we had to be
Yep.
back at work at like 3 or 4.
My
And the
goodness.
casinos would, feed you. They had cafeterias so you
Oh,
could get
great.
cheap food there. I mean, we were dirt poor. It
Yeah.
was like, but, so
Best
much
time of your
fun.
life.
Yeah, we had the
I
time
think
of our life.
everyone needs that. Everybody needs that when they're in their early, like, 20s and like late teens to just like go do all the fun, crazy stuff, get it out of your system. I mean, nobody cares when you're poor when you're 19. Like everybody is, you know.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
No, we have so many fond memories of that time. I mean, I'm still, still have these 3 women in my life, and when we get
Oh my
together, we just
God.
sit around and we howl about like the little circumstances that happened, and we have all these like little inside jokes. We would go to the 99-cent breakfast like after our night out, and there was a waiter
Yeah.
there. His name was Pat, and it was right over state line. So we lived and worked in California, but it was like right over state line. There was like, I think it was like the Cal Neva. I don't even think that casino is even there anymore because it was so old even at the time that we were going to it.
Mhm.
And so we would order their 99-cent breakfast, and we we would yell, "Where you at?" So that's like a big, our big joke because Pat was our waiter and he was like this older guy, and here we are, these
Like,
young,
not these girls again.
yeah, exactly. And we were probably, that's exactly what it was. And then we would be like heavy on the toast. So like in hopes that he would bring like extra toast.
We need that bread for all this alcohol.
Amazing.
I'm obsessed. How fun.
So
Yes.
this conversation kind of reminds, I've been listening to Amy Poehler's podcast, which is
Oh,
so good.
I'm
So
sure
good. Everybody should
amazing.
listen to it. I like her so much more than I ever thought. But she asks all of her female guests, like, what is the importance of female friendships to you?
I love
And
that.
I want to ask you that question.
Well, that's so funny that you mentioned Amy Poehler because look, I have her book sitting right here. Yes, please, Amy Poehler. So you must have been
Of
getting that.
course.
We've got like we're all syncing up over here.
Yep.
I love her too.
Yeah, that happens a lot here.
These friends mean everything to me. I just think female friendships are like some of the most valuable,
Yeah.
enriching. I learned so much from them always. And I think even this year, and we see each other very, very regularly. We always have a trip on the books to get together. I mean, it's like we take one trip and then we've got another one on the books. So our next one is we're meeting in Las Vegas to go see Coldplay. And then we go, so we'll be one night in Vegas and then we drive out to, I think it's Arizona. It is the Best Friends Animal Sanctuary. And so then we're going to volunteer there for like 2 or 3 days together. So we always are doing something interesting and expanding and fun. And yeah, and I just think those long time friendships are so important to me. So I have those 2. And then I have a whole nother group from elementary school that we actually stay together too. We get together on a very, very regular basis. And so I have these different groups of friends. And then even more recently, I really set the intention at the first of the year because, we grow and change. And I set the intention to really open myself up to more friendships, just even professionally. And so that's one of the things that I feel so grateful for within the Innersense community is we have such an amazing group of stylists and people that are even, support of that whole group and just people that you meet through the community that are incredible people that, just continue to challenge me and inspire me and help guide me to expansion and to view things in ways that I might not have before. So I'm so grateful for all the females and males in my life that, continue to expand who I am.
I think the core of what Innersense is, and we'll talk more about, if people don't know what that is, we'll talk more about that at the second half, but like what it stands for and like the core of it and all the things it represents, I think brings in a certain type of person. And I think that it attracts like the right people and a lot of people that have like a similar mindset. And you don't see that with like normal hair care things because they're just around. They don't have like anything maybe that they stand for, and they're just trying to sell things. And so what I felt at Summit is um just a lot of like really good people that care a lot about each other and their clients and the world, and just want to like come together for a greater cause. And it was just really inspiring to be in that energy. And what's crazy is I feel like I like jumped timelines since
Yep.
Summit. Like something happened to me there.
Yep.
My entire life
Oh,
has like
wow.
crumbled, changed, and fallen apart into this whole reality of like all the things that I've ever been working towards.
Yeah.
And that was not that long ago. Like I'm at a new job, I'm at a new house, like I have all these new business ventures that I'm going for. And it was like I went into like a time warp there, and I came out like this different person. So I want to thank
Oh,
you for doing that for, me.
Yeah.
That's
that's
amazing.
so incredible. I do think that that event is extremely magical. And I think it starts from the space that it's on, the
Totally.
land
That
that it's
land was
on.
insane. The
Is
energy
that
there is like I felt like kind of crazy. I was there a
right?
little bit of the time, and I was having like downloads and like all of this like so intense spiritual stuff happening to me. I don't know if I told you, but I can't remember her name, the curly oasis woman when she
Wafaya.
Wafaya, when she
Mm-hmm.
was speaking, there was like this giant ball of light next to her, like orbiting next to her that I could see. And I kept blinking my eyes, like, what is happening to me? And there was like this hawk flew over her, and then this like spirit was standing next to her. And sometimes it would morph to have shoulders, but then it would like come back. And I just felt like her like spirit guide was standing next to her, like guiding her through that conversation that she was having with everybody. And I was like, so like that's never happened to me before. And I was like shaky because I was like, felt like that was so intense. And I went and told her, and she was just like, thank you so much for sharing. I did ask for guidance before I went up there. And so it's
That's
nice to know that
beautiful.
they were like with me. Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
property is insane.
It's so sacred. And I
It's
just feel like there's
incredible.
so much intention behind everything that they do
Everything.
there. And we often have these conversations about wanting to change venues or do something different. And I'm always like the proponent of like, no, we can't do that because that space is just the earth. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of it, in my humble opinion, has to do with the labyrinths that they've
Oh, yeah.
created there, that they have two there, and just the kind of the energy that it facilitates
Yeah.
basically for people. I think the transformation, you know, if one is open to it, can be very profound.
I do have a question. So, Waking Up the Witch is a lot about maybe people that aren't very spiritual or witchy, like tuning into that side of themselves. So, can you share with everyone like what a labyrinth represents and like how that would make something more sacred, in your opinion?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna do a very good job at
That's
it,
okay.
but,
We're all
what it
trying.
what it means for me and what my understanding of a labyrinth is, and I'm sure that this is just like a very small fracture or
Mhm.
fraction of what it really is, but, the way that I understand it is that it supports, like, when you walk the labyrinth, it supports that connection, like, between the right brain and the left brain in a
Mm.
way that, is like no other somehow. So, like, when you go and you set your intention to step into the labyrinth and what you kinda wanna work out or work through, as you step through, because you don't really know where you're at in space and time, because you're not um like consciously able to kind of, the way that the labyrinth takes you through, you're not able to like consciously be 100% conscious, I guess,
Yeah,
is the
Mhm.
way it
totally.
is. It kind of brings your brain to a different way of being or knowing. And so then you're able to receive information that you wouldn't necessarily be able to receive
Wow.
otherwise.
Love.
And I think it's a really great way to, this is kind of uh, a little bit surface, but like a way to solve problems, if you will. You know,
Great.
like you could take something that you're wanting to like set an intention for, or something that's bubbling up, or anything really. And I think it kind of puts you in this vortex, if you will, of energy that is not like anything else. It's just a very fast way to get in contact with the quantum field, for lack of better terms. And that's probably not what the internet's going to say, but that's the world according to Joanne.
No, same. When I was past due with my baby, she's 18 months old now, but when I was like, please get this baby out of me, and I was like trying to visualize my birth, my doula kept telling me like, here's some labyrinths in the area. I want you to go walk them like barefoot so that you can connect to whatever. And I guess I didn't really understand. I didn't do it. I didn't understand like why or the significance. I was just like, okay. But to me now that makes total sense.
I think anytime that we can put ourselves in a place of expanding one's awareness outside of the thinking mind. And like I said, I know that there's scientific terms around all of this that I don't know, but what I do know is that when it's almost like getting out of our own way and getting out of the thinking mind and allowing, because there's so much wisdom and so much solutions, so many solutions, and so much creativity and abundance and expansion in the quantum field and in all the unseen. That if we are able to allow our thinking mind to get out of that, then we're able to see possibilities. And to, bring the creativity and bring the awareness and bring the solutions to us.
It reminds me, for some reason, I'm thinking about like doing morning pages. Are you familiar with that journaling practice?
Yes.
And
the artist's way, right?
Yeah. For those who don't know, this is something I recommend to a lot of people. I've done it myself, and it's like amazing how much clarity you can find. But the idea is every morning to journal for 3 pages straight. And it could be about anything. Like, really what we're doing is clearing the mind, because we all have so much that we're thinking about, worrying about, trying to remember what we're doing later, what we did yesterday. And there's just so much like kind of congested in our thoughts and in our mind that we can't really get clarity on everything else we're trying to create and bring into the world. And it's even hard to get that sense of bubbling because there's so much other stuff in the way. It's like a traffic jam. And so, you just, and it could be literally writing, I don't know what to write right now. Like, it's literally all of your thoughts, anything that's coming through, just write that down and pause when you need to. And any thought that you have, like, let that be your part of your 3 pages, write it down. And if you do that, even for 3 days straight, like, it's so incredible how much more clear and grounded you feel. And so it kind of reminds me of that, walking a labyrinth. It's helping you to kind of clear that congestion and that disconnect between our conscious and subconscious and our spiritual and physical, and allowing them to come together so that life can happen and things can be birthed and created.
That's great advice. Okay, I want to keep us on track. Can you take us back to life after Tahoe summer?
Oh, sure. Okay, so yes. So then I just had a hard time visualizing myself going back to Sacramento State.
Yeah.
And just like that felt less than on purpose or on path or on, like that just didn't feel like it resonated with me anymore. And so I quickly decided I wanted to move to San Diego I didn't want to leave my friends. Yes. And so I somehow looked into I guess, just realized that it was like, oh, okay, you were the one cutting everybody's hair on your dorm floor. And you were the one like that was, if somebody was like, oh, I want a perm, you'd be like, oh, I could do that for you, or color their hair or whatever.
Yeah.
I was the one that was, willing to kind of just do that. And so I ended up looking into cosmetology school, and it turned out there was a school at San Diego City College. And it turns out that it's like not expensive and it's way less expensive than like any cosmetology school. Like if you can find a cosmetology school at a city college, it's probably a better education and way less expensive. And so I ended up enrolling there. And I remember it was really difficult for me to tell my parents that that's what I had decided to do. And I think that that's when I kind of bumped up to that thing of like, oh, the image of a hairdresser, they're just like kind of the gum chewing, ding dongs that are just worried about your exterior view or your exterior appearance. And I don't know. I just feel like that there was probably this intrinsic piece inside of me that knew somewhere deep down that it was way more than that.
Yeah.
And so I found that I had to really be connected and strong with my conviction. Not that I got a lot of pushback. I mean, my parents were so encouraging and so gracious because I'm sure, they had to support me financially at that point.
Like, oh, this is
I mean,
cheaper.
I always had jobs, but ultimately they definitely supported me.
Yeah.
And so I moved down to San Diego and moved in with my friends, and everybody else was going to San Diego State. And then my one friend that was going to the fashion school in San Francisco, she ended up pivoting and going to a junior college down in San Diego so that we could kind of all just stay together. And that's what we did. And so
Cute.
I ended up going to San Diego City College for cosmetology. And then fast forward I don't know how many ever months, probably less than a year, my sister she was getting married back up in the Bay Area. And so I wanted to be back up in the Bay Area to be with my family and kind of participate in all of that. So I ended up enrolling in a school for like the last couple hours back in the Bay Area. So I ended up moving back up to the Bay Area, finished my schooling there. And then that's kind of where I launched my career into being a stylist.
Can we talk about how incredible it is that we, as hairstylists now, have kind of like broken that stereotype? And I think some people are mad about it. I think some people are mad that we are like actually educated and making money and like, I don't know. I was told, like, you're too smart for that. Like, don't go to, like, you don't need to go to beauty school. You're way too smart. But it's actually like, you have to be smart. It's kind of hard. And like you said, you were interested in psychology. Like, I think it takes that. I think it takes, you are a teacher. Like, you were going to school to be a teacher, but you are a teacher. And so many other things to be like, a successful hairstylist. You need to be so smart and well-rounded. And I'm like so proud of all of us for kind of breaking that stereotype over the last like decade or two.
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that it's way harder than what people think that it is. I mean, just the interpersonal relationships and the skills that you have to have and the nuances. I mean, there's so many things that I look back at that I was like just completely unprepared for and not good at, but you just kind of have to find your way. And I'm not even talking about like the hard skills. I'm talking about the soft skills and like setting boundaries and taking care of myself. And I mean, I think that that was the biggest thing. Maybe I'm jumping too far ahead. You can tell me, but I think that was probably the biggest thing for me with my inspiration to bring about Innersense was, yes, the products for sure, because that was a health matter. And that was something that was very much up in my face at that time. But I think more so than that, I wanted to be a brand or a company where hairstylists could come and feel loved and respected and cared for, and that I'm not going to insult their intelligence, and I'm going to be transparent and authentic and present and let them all know that they matter, because I know from standing behind the chair, you're a little bit in the trenches, and it can be a very, very lonely space if you don't have, if you haven't been so lucky as to find your path through it, or, I mean, there's just different times throughout it. It's not the easiest profession in the world. I think people look at a hairdresser and they're just like, oh, well, you just do that. Well, it's not just that. It's that and so, so, so much more. I mean, just the idea of standing in front of a mirror for 8 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Like, try that, people. Just that alone, right? I don't know about for you guys what your experience is with that.
I agree.
But
Totally.
that is just not an easy thing for somebody that is not used to that, or doesn't, that's not a, I mean, maybe some people love it. I'd love to hear the people that love it. It just for me to
Same. I do think being a hairstylist has made me a better person overall, with like more coping skills and life skills than like I would have been without it. Like you were saying, the boundaries and the conversations, and I get to talk to so many freaking cool, awesome people every day. Like I have the best clients in the world. Like I am obsessed with all of them, and I feel like I called that in. Like I definitely, when people when I started out, they would give me the difficult clients because they're like, oh, you can handle it. And so I put in my work there, but I've like earned this space of just like hanging with the girlies all day and just having awesome, real, open, vulnerable conversations all day. And it makes me a better person, I think.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, and it's more energizing too.
I'm obsessed. I have so much fun at work every day. Yeah. Okay, so you graduate cosmetology school in the Bay Area. What is it like? What year was this?
I got my cosmetology on, I think it was like October 14th, I want to say 1989. It was the day of the big earthquake in San Francisco.
Wow.
I don't know if you remember that day, but that was a very interesting day for me, for sure. My mom was my model. It was back in the day when you had to have a live model, and we lived in the East Bay, and the testing was in San Francisco on Van Ness in like a, high-rise building or whatever. And I remember there were probably, I'm going to guess, maybe like 15 or 16 people that were taking the test, maybe up to 20 at the time, but it was small. It was a very, very small group. And so after you take the test, you go and sit in this waiting room, and then they tell you right there whether you passed or failed. If I remember correctly, it was like literally in front of everybody. Like somebody just opens the door and has a list. And so I found out that I passed.
Woo.
And mind you, we had to get up at, I'm guessing, probably like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, because I think that maybe it started, I hate this. I wish I could remember exactly, but it was something obnoxious. I just remember getting up before the sun was out. It was like dark, and driving to San Francisco and being there and having to be ready for the test and all that kind of stuff. So, and plus, of course, you have all these, like all this anxiety around it. Like just test taking is not my strong suit. So I find out I pass, and it's back in the day when there might have been cell phones, but it was those big brick ones. And I for sure did not have one. But so I found out I passed. We go down to Van Ness, use a payphone. We call my dad. At the time, my dad had retired, and my mom was with me, and we call my dad and say, I passed, super excited. He's like, oh, that's wonderful. Do you want me to drive out and I will take you guys to the top of the Mark for dinner to celebrate?
Oh.
And that was so sweet. It's like the Mark Hopkins Hotel, and it's this iconic restaurant that's like up on whatever 20-something floor. I'm making all that up, but whatever. And maybe even it's probably a taller building than that. You get my drift, right? He's going to take us to this really great meal. And so guess what I say, which is just so ironic. As a young 20-something-year-old, you would think that I'd be like, yes, let's go out to dinner. I was like, Dad, I'm so exhausted. Would you just mind putting something together for dinner and we'll come home? And at that time, my mom was still working and my dad was retired. So he kind of had become like the cook in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sure he was secretly happy because it happened to be like the first night of the World Series or something was coming on. And so we get home. I wish I could remember what he had made us, but it was some wonderful meal. We're all sitting at the kitchen table, and just like back in those days, you had the TV on because it was the World Series or whatever.
Can't miss
and then
it.
next thing you know, the earthquake started.
Wow.
And we were like, oh my gosh. And so then the first thing you think of is like, what's happening right there in your space. Lucky it wasn't that huge of an impact for us. There was no damage or anything like that. But what little did we know was there was part of the bridge that came down in San Francisco. I mean, there was different things that happened throughout the whole area. But we would have been stuck like in San Francisco and had to have been rerouted and who knows how scary that would have been sitting
that
up
high.
at that, whatever that, whatever that was. So I feel very grateful that I don't know, that I just I was too tired that we had gotten up early in the morning.
Yeah. Could we call that your Innersense?
Maybe. I could.
So
it
that
didn't
feels
feel like it at the
intuitive.
time, probably, but I think, I mean, it's kind of wild to think that, anyway. So it's just funny that I have that in common with that specific date, that was the date that I got my cosmetology
I was
license.
wondering why you knew the specific date, but now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Now it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Totally.
And there was just a post on Instagram that was like like how they have those historical snippets or whatever. And I reposted that on my story that was like, this is the day. So I just recently saw that actually, like whatever the date was. I mean, I knew it was October 89, but I can't remember whether it was the 14th or the 28th or something like that, whatever that date is of the earthquake. So yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you guys were safe and at home.
I know. Me too. Me too. Yeah.
So I'm trying to keep you like not going past your time, but can you walk us through like your early years of hairstyling, and then we'll kind of get
and then just lead into creating Innersense.
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things that I was really lucky very, very early on, I think it was in my cosmetology school, there was a man named Gary Gerard who had a advanced haircutting academy in San Francisco, and he would go to the local cosmetology schools and kind of get assistance for people that were like, the teachers would pick out like, oh, this person would be good to come and like assist you for like whatever training. I mean, it was literally like sweeping hair or doing whatever. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. So I met him and really just resonated with his teaching. He was definitely Sassoon trained, but had moved the needle on his education. And he had an advanced training center that was quite large in San Francisco. Back in the day, it was probably one of the best in the area. People would fly in from all over the United States to take week-long trainings there. And so I just kind of grinded with him. I just was like, anytime you want me to show up, I will be here, like whatever you want me to do. Like, I mean, this was just like, me putting in the work on like understanding what it took to become a educator. And haircutting, I think, was my lane for sure. I mean, I definitely did color, but I loved just that grooming part of the hair, like, the sections and the cutting and just feeling, so accomplished when you create this beautiful haircut that doesn't need to necessarily be heavily styled or manipulated, and it just falls so perfectly. And so I worked with him for quite some time and became an educator for him and then a platform artist. And I think, he was very influential in me becoming an educator in the industry. And so then fast forward that, other brands would hire me, and ultimately I started working for a perm company long-term, and which was by Helene Curtis. It was actually ISO. I think that perm company is still around. I don't even know if you guys know what that is. But at the time they brought out new technology. I think they're still around. But anyway, that's actually where Greg and I met. Because he started out behind the chair, and he was behind the chair for about 10 years and then ended up getting into sales and marketing for other major manufacturers. And so that's where we met and fell in love.
Husband.
I mean, yeah, my husband, Greg. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that was that. And all the while I had my own business pretty much. I always seemed to find myself in a situation where I was either renting a chair, kind of having my own business at the time, probably my biggest place of where I had my biggest clientele or whatever, where I was like at the height of my business was in Danville, California. And it was at a very, very large salon, but we were renting chairs there at the time. And I was also then doing platform work outside of that. So I think I kind of always liked having my own business because then I could have multiple things going on at one time.
Totally.
It really worked for me. And and so at the time that Greg and I got together, I was up in Northern California and he was in Southern California. And the plan was for him to move to Northern California because I had this big clientele and this business and it was thriving. And he could basically kind of live wherever in the region. His wasn't necessarily, he didn't have to live in Southern California. So right after he moved up to Northern California, they ended up offering him a national position.
Wow.
And so he had to move back down to Southern California. Well, simultaneously, we ended up deciding to get married. And then I found out I was pregnant. And so it kind of all worked out where I ended up selling off my business and my clientele to a stylist that was incoming into the area. And I ended up moving to Southern California with Greg. And that's where Morgan was born, in Long Beach. And so it was kind of almost like this divine order that happened, that I ended up giving up my clientele as Morgan was being born and I ultimately thought that I would go back behind the chair. But with Morgan, at the time, she was diagnosed at 22 months old. So at the time, we did not know that, she had special needs, but it was a really impactful and powerful time for me to be, and a tough time too, I will have to say, to be a stay-at-home mother, to like step away from the chair and kind of go through that like identity metamorphosis of like, oh my God, I was this businesswoman with this thriving career and people came to me and I knew what I was doing and I was seen and honored for like the impact that I was having, in these people's lives. And now you kind of go to this area where you like know no one and you have this baby that's colicky and you're insecure. And all the while Greg's career was kind of ramping up. So, which was good for him, but it was definitely a tough time, I would say, for us and for me specifically as a mom. And then fast forward, I was pregnant for Max and getting ready to deliver him. And then my hormones kicked in. And it was like, I really need to figure out what's going on with Morgan, because I started this big mommy and me group, and there were like 20 something mothers that would come, and we'd meet weekly either at a park or at somebody's house. And I would drive away from those gatherings and having seen all the other kids that were Morgan's age and how they were developing and how Morgan was not developing that same way. And was so unnerving for me. And then knowing that I had this other child that was going to be born and thinking to myself, here I'm going to have this infant, but I don't know what's going on with this other child. And so I just hammered the doctors. And, at first I got, oh, you're just a first-time mom, go home, put your feet up, have a glass of wine, she's fine, whatever. And it was just like then kind of having to do the deeper dive and figure out like what doctors did she need to see. And then finally we did land on a geneticist, and she was like, I think I know what might be going on, but there's this specific definitive blood test that you can take. And so we did. It was called the FISH test. And then we got the diagnosis like probably like, I don't know, 2 to 4 weeks prior to Max's birth.
Wow.
Morgan was diagnosed with Williams syndrome. And so, as you can well imagine, the rug was pulled out from
Yeah.
underneath me. I definitely went into a deep depression,
Yeah.
having, um, just kind of like your world shattered. Like here you think you have this child, that it's going to be one thing, and then
Mhm.
you get this diagnosis and you're kind of pushed out into the abyss of not knowing what's going to happen. And, yeah, I don't know. It just was, tough time. So anyway, Max was born.
Yeah.
And then, continuing on our journey and me wanting to I was a very young mom, but wanting to be as healthy as I could be, and wanting Morgan to be as healthy as she could be, because we
Mhm.
were launched into this world of disabilities. And so I started cleaning up my house, like as far as like all the chemicals, and then it
Mhm.
kind of bled over into all the beauty care and the
Oh,
products
yeah.
that I was using on Morgan's hair. And what was funny is she had this cute little curly hair, and I was using this one very, very well-known product at the time. Little did I know it was laden with silicones, resins, plastics, and synthetic fragrances, and all these things that I
Mhm.
didn't want on her hair. I didn't want to work with behind the chair. And
Mhm.
so that started a conversation between me and Greg. And at the time, Greg was sitting in the boardroom of these bigger corporations and understanding that there were two different formulations, one for the US and one for the for the EU, for
Mhm.
Europe. And what we didn't know at the time, but what we quickly found out after we kind of had this idea to really start things, was it's not just the ingredients and what's on the label. Like you can have an ingredient like shea butter, let's say, for instance, but we as consumers don't know what grade of shea butter that is. So you can synthesize that shea butter and, put, put petrochemicals in it,
Yeah.
and it's still going to say shea butter on
Yeah.
it, on the
Yeah.
label. And so these are just things that we found out. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but that basically started a conversation between Greg and I. And then, of course, I was purchasing products at the health food store, right?
Mhm.
Thinking that, okay, these products are going to be better. But what I
Mhm.
found was, as a stylist, they didn't perform
Yeah.
the way the professional products that I was
Yeah.
using behind the chair. And so I feel like that's really where we found the gap. And Greg really started to do the research and started to figure out, like, why do these products not work as well? Like, what is it? Is it the ingredients? Is it the amount of the active ingredients that's in it? And of course, you find out there's just so much water in all the products.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
yeah, so anyway, that was kind of, at that point, I would say Innersense was born.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
amazing.
What year was this?
Well, Morgan was diagnosed, let's see, she was born in 1995. She was diagnosed in 1997. And I would say, it took a couple years for like all of this awareness and these epiphanies to
Yeah.
happen. And then more years for the research and the development. We say the launch of Innersense was 2005, but I would say, this awareness was quite a long trajectory. And there were a
Mhm.
lot of things that kind of had to happen. There was a lot of research, there was a lot of development, there was a lot of people that we contacted. There was just a lot that happened between like the moment that we had this awareness and then really the time to market.
Yeah. I have two questions. Oh, I think I lost one. Did you ever okay, here's the first one. So when you like develop these products, like then what's the next step? Like how do you get them out to people? How do you get the word out? Like what is that like? And then the second question is like, did you ever imagine it would be what it is today?
Mm. Well, the first question, it's like you kind of just figure it out. I mean, obviously Greg was working for large manufacturers,
Yeah,
and
that
so he
helps.
kind of saw the distribution model and how that all came to be. And so he had a lot of knowledge and a lot of skill set in that area. It still was not easy. But I would say, he definitely had a lot of the know-how, and had seen it done with other brands.
Mhm.
So I mean, that would probably be a whole nother podcast, you guys, as far as all that, because there were so many ups and downs and ebbs and flows. And if you can well imagine, like, I thought I had the best thing since sliced bread coming out with it. And I would be like, here's this product. I'm talking to a hairdresser and, I have this product. It's the blah, 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 talk about the ingredients. They're like, oh, well, I have that product already. It's called XYZ. You can only imagine, and so
you don't.
yeah, exactly. And so then that's the thing. It's like this education thing that then smacks you in the face, that you've got to you really realize, like, I think my awakening happened and I'm thinking, okay, everybody's going to think this or have this awakening. And it's like, no, that's not the case. So there were many, many years. And then I guess to answer your question, it's been 20 years. And so I think looking back, I think for me personally, you have this seed or you have this baby or you have this, this idea or something like that. And I don't think you really ever completely know where it's going to go or the impact that it's going to make. But I would like to think that Greg and I set the intention to be where we're at now. I think I would be lying if I said that I knew really where it was going to be or what it was going to do. But I think the intention was always there. The intention was always for me to have the cleanest, most environmentally friendly, non-toxic products. And then beyond that, like I was saying before, was just to up-level the industry and up-level the stylist and expand people's consciousness and awaken people to the idea of themselves as beauty and wellness professionals, that they have so much power behind the chair, and that not only is it important for them to care for the people that are sitting in their chair, but it's even more important for them to care for themselves as the stylist and for them to awaken whatever health and wellness means for them inside of themselves. And so I would like to think that that is what I envisioned for the brand, for community, for love, for health, for wellness, for just up-leveling the industry. That was really my intention. And I think, and definitely in Greg's intention too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, you have. I think that I'm just so grateful to have found Innersense. It's changed my business. It's changed my life. I definitely struggled still kind of with a lot of like skin issues. And so that's where my healing journey kind of started in my early 20s, was like getting rid of everything and trying every elimination diet. And, a lot of brands that I used in the past are plant-based and like claim to be all of these things, but they're so many fragrances and like hidden ingredients. And I would even say greenwashing to an extent. And so finding Innersense and finding it to be exactly what you say it is huge. And we live in Southern Oregon, which is like, I mean, a lot of people here are, I would say, crunchy and like into wellness and clean stuff. So I think, probably one of the first people to find Innersense down here. And so being able to like share it with the community has also been like really special for me.
Yeah. And
it's beautiful.
For me, as just a consumer, like my hair has never been better. And like like having those standards is so important to me. Like my whole 20s I spent working at Whole Foods and like just learned so much. And I've always been just much more of a natural girly and skin sensitive issues, and grew up on swabs and like
right,
what we had available to us at a good price and stuff. And so for me it's really important, and has been my whole adult life, to have clean products and getting introduced to them. Like Taylor's been with me on a hair journey. My hair just looks so much better and healthy and shiny, and I feel so happy to have something, because I was using natural hair care products and my hair it was a big frizz ball. Like it didn't look good.
I got you.
And now it's like I mean, this is day 2, and it's like silky and shiny and smooth, and it just feels good.
Yeah.
I
We
love
actually met because she sat in my chair.
Yeah.
So it's just like such a powerful career to have.
Telling you, the connections are abound for
It's the best.
hairstylists.
So we have about like 15 minutes left. I think if you have anything else that you want to share or any like upcoming things going on for you, anything else people should know about you.
Oh, wow. I mean, I guess where I'm at these days is just recognizing or continuing to recognize how much people matter to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I could get a little teary-eyed thinking about it. I think that is the most significant thing for me. If I could make any impact on the world, is just the connection that I've made with people through our community, and to continue to invite people to recognize how special they are. And that small, still voice inside of them matters, and that it's never going to steer you wrong. It might steer you in a place where it was unexpected or doesn't feel so comfortable, or maybe is making you do things that you never thought you would do. But I would just suggest to trust it and stay connected to it, and let that, guide you. I think one of the things that I didn't really get much into is just being a mom to a special needs adult, which has been very, very powerful for me and has definitely shaped who I am. I think you said earlier about how, being a stylist has made you a better person. I can definitely agree with that. But I think being Morgan's mom has definitely made me a better person. I mean, for sure. When I think back to the time that she was diagnosed, it was a very scary, scary time. And I don't know that I really felt equipped to be able to be her mother. But we got some advice very early on from a meditation trainer or coach that Greg and I were in a meditation group at the time that Morgan was diagnosed. And, one of the things he brought up the word Innersense, and the idea that Innersense is like your innocence. Like when you go back to that place of innocence, you can connect with the essence of who you are. And so it's like the idea of Innersense is staying connected with that, whether you're going to call it your North Star or your guiding light. And I feel as Morgan's mom, she definitely supports me to stay connected to that. She constantly has that childlike wonder and just brings so much joy and happiness to people. And I've learned so much from her. I've learned so much from her. I mean, of course, I've learned from my son as well. Just being a parent in general is going to support one's growth. But I think one of the gifts that Morgan gave me very, very early on, that, if I could say anything to any young parents out there, is the idea that, these young, small children are just, given to us to be able to be their guide. It's not for us to project our own wounds, or like, I think I definitely could have been the type of parent that would have been like wanting to get, and Morgan even jokes with me too, like being her stage mom or whatever, like kind of being like the what are those called? I think, is that what they're called? Like the stage mom, like the pageant mom or whatever.
Like a dance mom.
Yeah, like a dance mom. Like I probably could have got down with that position like nobody's business. And I think Morgan showed me very, very early on that she's just her own unique, special person. And I just was here to kind of just sit and support and allow, and just, sit and watch in a way, and not be so all up in the controlling factor. And so I think that has, I was just able to, I think, really learn that early on, which I was lucky to be able to have that opportunity to be able to, be her mom. And I think I'm definitely not the best mom, but a better mom for it, for sure. So
yeah, you're lucky to have each other. She's lucky to have you.
And she's a part of Innersense.
Of course, yeah.
She is. Yeah, she has the title of the director of joy. She loves her title. And she loves her work.
Yeah.
She wants to go to work. She doesn't want to take any time off. So she's so cute.
I think for me, being a new mom, and so she's 18 months old, and I'm struggling maybe with like how to balance it all because I have so many visions and idea. I'm gonna cry. Like I'm full of all of this, like these things I want to create, and I finally have like the resources and the networking and like the things to do them, but then it's like I'm struggling with like how to balance that, and I'm just wondering, as like someone that's built something so big and special, like what advice would you have for someone like me or someone in my position?
Yeah, I would. The first thing that comes to mind for me, right, wrong, or otherwise, but something that has worked for me in my experience is to kind of let go of the compartments. I think one of the things that I really enjoy so much that I continue to reflect on different levels and at different times is that I and we and Greg and we've kind of designed our life very, very holistically. So it's a very blurred line between work and play. And I feel like that has really worked for us. I don't know if it's a piece of advice, if that would really work for everybody, but I do think that there is something to be said about like showing up in every space, regardless of its work or play or whatever, and just being super authentic and being unapologetically okay with being a forerunner and being somebody that maybe what I'm doing is not going to look like what anything anybody has ever done before. And to somehow muster some sort of confidence to be able to show up that way and be that way, because it's definitely not the norm. I mean, I think sometimes like you can get labels slapped on you like, oh, you're a workaholic or you do so much, or like, I talk about like the things that I'm doing or what's going on in my life. And it's like, I can see like people just get exhausted just from me talking about it. But I think, there is something, the passion that just kind of burns within both me and Greg, and that kind of bleeds over into the family. And sometimes you don't know the reason behind things at the time that you're doing it. But I think sometimes like if you can look back or be at the seat that I'm in and just like look in hindsight, I would just say, just allow and don't judge. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge those around you, and forge your own path, like whatever that looks like for you, whatever is going to create the most happiness in your life. I'm always, I think one of my North Stars is fun and, enjoying myself and having good time. Yeah. So,
I mean, I think a reminder to myself right now is like everything I'm doing and building is for her, like it's for myself.
Absolutely.
But like, it's, at the end of the day, everything's for her. Yeah.
I love that.
Okay.
Well, I feel like this is a great place to end on our two favorite questions that we like to ask all of our guests. And our first one is, what is it that you do for self-care that you just can't live without?
Ooh. I mean, there's so many things, but I think the first thing that came to mind for me is just like meditation. Whether that looks in the form of like a yoga nidra or like a guided meditation, or just me sitting and taking like a few deep breaths, like even just like what we did in the beginning. Like, I think there's just nothing better than connecting with your breath. And I think there's so much value in it. And like I think I said before, our bodies are such masters at creating exactly what we need to have, for that ultimate health. And I think sometimes it's just a matter of getting out of the way.
Love that.
I love that. If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be? And that could be your younger self yesterday all the way back to childhood.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's our favorite one.
Oh, yeah. I think that, This sounds really weird. I'm going to have to probably work this out later. This will be my my journaling pages for myself later. But
we don't judge.
Like that it's just, what comes to mind for me, like immediately is just the phrase, like, it just doesn't matter. Like, don't take things so seriously. Like at the time, like, I think when you're younger, like whether it's, the friendships or the not getting invited places or not feeling so, worthy or not feeling the best or whatever. It's like ultimately that stuff doesn't matter because focusing on what, your happiness or your joy or that is what is going to drive you forward and get the most, that's going to make the most of your life. So I don't know, something that didn't feel very succinct or very thought out.
People have said that actually when we asked them that question. That's like,
oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of people say kind of the same thing.
And I think it's such an important reminder. Like personally, it's so easy for life to feel so serious.
Yes.
And
everything's made up.
Right?
It's like
we're
life
just
is
making
hard,
it up
and stressful sometimes. And so like to me right now, that's exactly what I needed to hear.
So to part with you, we're going to pull one card to kind of like...
this is my favorite part. How exciting.
Oh my God. This is
what I would do with my clients every time after I did their hair. I would always pull a card.
Do you have a deck with you?
I don't have a deck right here. I mean, I could probably go grab one, but no, I don't have one sitting right here. But it's funny that is what I would always do with my clients at the end, and they would love it. And what would be so fascinating for me is it would wrap the whole session up in such like this pretty little package. It would like always resonate with what we were talking about or like,
totally.
So. I love it.
Yeah. So I pulled from the Moon deck. This is one of my favorites. And the reason why I was feeling called is because all of her cards are different affirmations. And that's one of my favorite things that I do love. That's like this added little gem of your products is there's affirmations on the back of every product. So it really is like, you're not just putting in hair product, but you're slowing down and you're being with the product and you're being with yourself. So I felt like this would be complementary. And while I was shuffling, so many flew out. So I think we need them all.
Oh, no. Wow.
Our first one is I allow stillness to heal and reveal, which that's like
just said that
meditation. That's
so beautiful.
Good. With focus and intention, I can shape energy in any direction.
That's like the labyrinth.
Yes.
Play is my pathway to joy.
Oh my God, stop it.
Yay.
And love and intimacy flow into my life effortlessly.
Wow.
Those are so great. They're all so perfect.
They're so perfect.
Oh, wow. Does anything come up for you hearing any of those phrases or affirmations?
Well, for sure, the love and intimacy flows easily into my life is something that, just makes me think about Greg and how, being married for 30 years in June.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah. Thank you. It's always a work in progress, but he is my guy, and just I love him so much and feel so. That was like part of my, when you talked earlier about or when we did our little grounding about being grateful, and my gratitude was definitely towards Greg because he really is my rock in all of this. Like it's just he's just so incredible. So yes,
so lucky
definitely.
to have that.
I love that. Well, where can people connect with you, find you, buy your products, everything?
Oh, wow. That's a lot. We're everywhere, it feels like. You can connect with me personally on Instagram at Joanne Starkman is my personal Instagram account. And then obviously Innersense Beauty is another account. I have your Trust Your Innersense podcast. If you want to check out, you can get that on any podcasting platform. Obviously our website if you want to purchase any of our products. And
I will share a link in the bio for this.
Yeah.
Amazing.
episode.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What an
Joanna.
honor. It was so great to connect with you and get to know you on a deeper level. And thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah.
Of course. This was such a blessing for me, and I appreciate your time and your just intention and how you guys show up and just the questions that you ask and just allowing this space to be for people. I think it's such an important thing that you're doing. So I thank you so, so very much.
I think so too. Thank you. This episode has been produced by my husband, Curtis Burgess.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at
Waking Up the Witch. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at wakingupthewitch@gmail.com.
And don't forget to head over to the link in our bio on Instagram for all the ways to connect with both Amber and Taylor. And go to moonbeeswellness.com for all your self-care and witchy needs.
We love you. Bye.
Bye.
Ow. Ow.